Welcome, everyone, to the sports podcast called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is the Grumpy Old Man. They say there's no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
Grump, how are you? The day after Christmas, how are you?
Miserable. I'm miserable.
Why are you miserable, man?
Okay. Here's another reason to hate COVID. It cost me money this year in my fantasy football leagues.
Oh,
Single-handedly cost me a championship today and money in my pocket. That's what it cost me.
if you didn't hate COVID enough, the impact.
Now there's a real reason to hate it.
Now, not only the death of individuals, but also Grumpy Old Man hitting them in the pocket.
In a 12-team league, I was picking 12th. Think about that. 12th in a 12-team league, right? So, the chances of being successful are slim and none. Somehow, I put together an absolute freaking juggernaut of a team. But then this week, Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce out. Lamar Jackson, okay, well, he's got a little injury. So I'm like, okay, let me pick up his backup, who was fantastic last week. I picked him up, goes out on COVID on Friday. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. Ben freaking Roethlisberger, who's just absolutely toast. He's like a pig on the spit at this point in time. Done, finished, cast, caught me, right? And I mean, my team was loaded, and I wound up getting beat. And of course, this guy picks up some scraps to fill in his lineup. He didn't even have anybody on COVID. His team just sucked. So he fills in somebody, Rex freaking Burkhead, right? Picks up Rex Burkhead. The guy puts up freaking 35 points today, fantasy points. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Rex freaking Burkhead, that's more than he's had in 3 years combined.
It's Grumpy. It sounds like you're a little angry, and maybe the guy's team was just better than yours, Grumpy.
It was not better than mine. Not even close. Yeah, maybe when you take my top 3 draft picks off of there, sure. Yeah. I mean, yes, if I start drafting in the 5th round and this guy's picking like 100 picks in the first 2 rounds, my team was still better than him.
Grumpy, what can I say? Maybe it just looks like you didn't prepare enough. You didn't prepare enough to have those backup players ready for the COVID shutdowns.
Then my guys are getting hurt today as they're in there because I had valid backups. Then they get hurt out for the rest of the game. You got to be kidding me.
Well,
devastating.
We'll talk about it because COVID, the new variant, seems to be impacting a lot around the sports world. Now, for those of you who are new to this podcast, we, number one, welcome you to the podcast. We invite you also to subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and follow on Twitter. This is a sports podcast where we just talk sports and shoot the shit. We go live every single Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every single Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Grumpy. And to make sure, again, you don't miss out on any action, important to subscribe on YouTube.
Very true. And something really, really important that I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. I really hope you did. Because we, with the Islanders, the NHL putting guys on, whatever. And then Christmas, this is our first podcast in like a week or something. I don't even remember what the last one was, honestly. It was so nice not to see TJ's ugly mug for a week, though. I have to say that.
I was about to say, the last time we did a podcast, I was on the move and was happy to be back in the studio. Happy to be back once again. But we're also going to have some games we're going to be covering live. I know Oklahoma. Oh, well, here's the thing. If permitted, if the college bowl games are not canceled, we do have plans to cover a few of the college bowl games. So far, there have been 4 different college bowl games that have been canceled within the last 48 hours. So I don't know if we're going to see that continue. We've seen a lot of teams canceling, and again, like 3 today alone. So I'm not sure how many college football bowl games there are going to be. But we originally were intending on covering the Oklahoma-Oregon game on Wednesday, 9:15 Eastern Standard Time, covering that game live. And also covering the Pittsburgh-Michigan State game on Thursday. At Thursday at 7:00 to give again, because we're going to start as the playoffs start kicking around, Grumpy. We're going to start doing the NFL games, and we're planning on covering the college football playoffs, both the semifinal games as well, and those New Year's Day bowls. But again, I'm not sure what's going to happen with all these COVID cancellations. Though 4 college football games canceled within the last 48 hours. I never would have thought that was the case.
Yeah, you got the Fenway Bowl, the Military Bowl, the Toilet Bowl. I mean, these were all garbage games anyway. The Aloha Bowl, whatever the heck they were, all these. I don't understand. I mean, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people are getting sick. I mean, they're just testing positive, and they're not really getting super sick. So, isn't that good? I think.
Yeah, and that's again.
If you're vaccinated, why the hell are they testing you all the time anyway? Who cares?
This is again what Franks has talked about, Philip Franks, and you're seeing the NFL. We had talked about this last podcast. The last podcast we had done, I believe it was on a Sunday, perhaps, and we had talked about how the NFL said, based off a lot of backlash from the players, coaches, fans, etc., we need to change how these COVID protocols are done. Right? If you are vaccinated, there's a different set of protocols now as compared if you're not vaccinated in the NFL. So in the NFL, if you're vaccinated and you're asymptomatic, I think you're good to play. You don't have to sit out at all. So that's a new recent change they had. I believe it was this week. But if you're not asymptomatic, then you have to sit out. If you're not vaccinated and you are asymptomatic, you still have to sit out 10 days. So no matter if you're asymptomatic or not asymptomatic, if you're not vaccinated, you have to sit out a bare minimum of 10 days. But if you're vaccinated and asymptomatic, you could play immediately.
No, you still have to have 2 negative tests.
Okay, 2 negative tests. I apologize.
Brother, yeah, I mean, it's like I mean, I don't know. If you're not sick, get their asses out. They cost me a championship. 10% of the league was tested positive for COVID. Well,
I was about to say, there's so many of these leagues have a large amount of their players testing positive for COVID right now.
I don't care if you test positive.
The NFL, you talk about it. College football is going crazy. You talk about it. The
NBA?
NHL has a whole bunch. The NBA and Premier League football and soccer in general has a whole bunch of the games that are being canceled game after game after game. Like, for example, like teams like Burnley and teams like Watford, they've had their last 3 games in a row canceled over the last 2 weeks because they've had opponents that have had numbers affected because of COVID. And they say, oh, well, with numbers and injuries, we can't get out there and play right now. And it's funny to think about how some of these teams are really going to be screwed on the back end of the season if they're getting 3, 4, 5 games canceled in a row. I mean, they're not going to extend a season by a month. So it just makes you think, okay, there's going to be some teams that are sitting in an odd and precarious situation here going forward.
And you had in college basketball, the ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference, they changed their rule. It says if you had COVID, you're just going to forfeit games. But I guess they've changed that where that's not going to be the case anymore.
Well, I'm glad they did because you want to talk about if you were just canceling games and saying, hey, if you have too many COVID cases, you're just going to have to forfeit and take a loss. That's not right either.
No.
It's an odd situation that all these leagues are taking somewhat different approaches to the time period to wade through this COVID that it is. But I tell you, man, I don't want to talk about it too much anymore, but it seems like it always makes an impact on sports, which is the crappy part about it, right? Sports are our escape from this.
Right. And particularly my fantasy team. It killed me, devastated me. So that being said, the NFL even came out and said that their doctors have done studies on the players, and they're just saying that, playing the game is not spreading the disease. I mean, they're wearing helmets and every other thing. So they said, everything they've said that this particular strain is not getting spread through playing the game. I don't know. They released that last week, Tuesday.
Okay. Here's the thing. This is okay. It's the same exact NFL that tried to go ahead and cover up and conceal the fact that CTE and all these helmet-to-helmet collisions led to traumatic brain issues and concussions, lead to all these CTE and these traumatic brain issues. They tried to cover all that up for years and years and years and years and years until they had multiple scientists say, no, you're not able to do that anymore. I think the NFL, there's no way. Here's the thing. Whether they should play, whether they should be able to play if they're not sick and they just test positive and vaccine, other people can quibble about that. That's not my job. I will tell you, if you're hitting somebody, there's a lot of fluids that go all over the place like that, especially when you're sweating, your sweat, somebody else's sweat. I'm not sure if you could say, hey, there's no way it spreads via the game. I'm not saying it's an issue if it spreads via the game. I'm just saying, what's the difference between someone going to the mall?
My whole thing is, if you're not getting tested and you're asymptomatic, how the hell would they even know if you had it? unless they're out there testing you. If you're vaccinated, why the hell are they even testing you if you're not sick? I don't know. Makes no sense to me. My players need to be on the field this week. They weren't. They cost me a championship.
I'm sure you're not the only person who had a situation like that, right?
I don't care about anybody else. I'm talking about me. Thanks, Austin Eckler. Thanks, Travis Kelce. Thanks, Tyler Huntley. Thanks a lot, fellas.
Tyrone Huntley. Tony Cheese.
Tyler.
Okay. Tony Cheese says David Harbour in the Grumpy Old Man. I'm not sure who David Harbour is.
Look him up.
Do you know who David Harbour is?
By the way, New Year's is coming up, and I am going to give you a resolution for New Year's, TJ.
Bullshit. I know what you're going to say already, damn it.
What is it?
I need you to be on time to the podcast.
Oh, there you go. I bet you break that one opening night.
This is the guy from whatchamacallit.
He was in he's without his shirt a lot. That does look like TJ. Yeah.
Hold on, he was Hellboy.
He was yeah, but he wasn't the original Hellboy, which was Ron Perlman.
This is the guy from that
he
show.
Was also in Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, that's right.
He played Natasha's dad in the Black Widow movie as well. Matter of fact, he was the best thing in that Black Widow movie. The best thing. Him trying to get his his old suit on. It was like Mr. Incredible trying to get in his suit after he'd been out of the game for a while.
Tony Cheese, are you trying to come up my hair? Are you saying that this guy's hair is comparable to my hair? Is that what it is, Tony Cheese?
Yeah, and the same scraggly ass beard too.
Tony Cheese says a Christmas special. They usually don't premiere the day after Christmas. It's before or the day of. Well, we're doing something different. It's the Christmas special the day after Christmas. What can I say, Tony Cheese?
He's our post-Christmas special.
Damn it. Okay, that's probably how it should have been titled. Oh, well. Tony Cheese says, TJ thinks that vegetarians don't eat animal crackers.
Is that true, TJ?
No further comment on this.
I'm going to tell you what. Tony has been jonesing to whip his lines out. I can tell already.
Mm-hmm. I feel like he's got a few. He's had a few. And
he's like an insult spigot right now.
Oh, jeez. Good gracious. Oh man, but there've been a lot of cancellations. Speaking one more thing about cancellations, players are upset about, and rightfully so. No Olympics this year for NHL players, not able to participate in the Olympics. We talked about it a little bit on last Sunday's podcast, and we have now, because remember, all the players had that break. Also since the last podcast, every team's games and activities was postponed until after Christmas. So the first time that players could resume and come back to camp was today. Islanders reported, a few other teams reported, but a lot of other players are popping up on the COVID list. If I'm a gambling man, I want to say close to 40% of the NHL, I feel like, has had COVID at some point already this season.
But how many people are sick?
No, I'm just saying. I feel like once you get it, I mean, like, you could never catch it again here for this cycle.
No, that's not true.
Until they get a new variant.
I don't think that's even true. It's like, to me, it's like the flu, right? Or something. You might test positive for it, but you might have. I mean, if you're not sick, your body's doing its job. And this variant is not particularly strong or virulent. I mean, I think that's good. I mean, that's just me. What can I tell you? Well, I told you that they were gonna back out of the Olympics. That was so obvious.
And when we first started the season, my point was, hey, we've had a lot of these players who've had COVID so far. You're seeing your Brad Marchands, you're seeing your Connor McDavids, less than thrilled about this because none of them had a chance to answer or respond to this statement made by the PR team, because everybody was still like, hey, you're isolating. All the players had to go ahead and go home and isolate until after Christmas. And now that some of them are reporting back here to camps and to their organization, you're seeing them respond. Brad Marchand said something of the sorts of, obviously this is unfortunate, but I understand that the Olympics doesn't make the NHL money and they're in a business and we're assets and they don't want to go ahead and add this over there.
There's one other thing to remember. The league did not want the players playing in the Olympics.
Yes.
That was a bone of contention. And I feel that they just used this as a reason to get their way. So now what are they going to do, right? It's not like they're going to get those 2 weeks off. You're going to see these games that have been postponed are just going to be filled into that time slot.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. As soon
Yep.
as they agreed upon that, they said, all right, we'll go ahead and delay this a week or so. We'll go ahead and spread the schedule out a little easier for them. So those 2 weeks that we did have scheduled for the Olympics, just as you mentioned, Grumpy, are now going to be scheduled here for the regular season. Now, sucks for the players too, right? That was a huge thing for them. The players really want to be able to play in the Olympics. They really want to be able to support their home country and be able to support them, and they're unable to do so. I just, it's not like they're going to go ahead and say, oh, because we were unable to fulfill the obligation we had committed to with allowing you to have access to play in the Olympics. Now instead, we're going to do XYZ differently to benefit the players. You're not going to see anything like that.
True. Very true.
So, yeah, I'll tell you, it's odd. Alexander says, Grumpy, TJ, feels like it's been forever. Miss you guys. Merry Christmas to the both of you guys and your families as well. Well, thank you, Alexander. Merry Christmas as well.
Yes, Alexander. Merry Christmas to everyone who listens to the show.
Absolutely. Frank Hay says, looks like the taxi squads have returned to the NHL. Bettman is taking a severe beating for pausing while the NBA and the NHL are being praised.
Yeah, here's the difference, though. He has the Canadian teams that he has to worry about, and the Canadian government is really strict about certain things, and that was gonna be a real monkey work. I mean, in the NBA, you have just Toronto, right? And I'm sure they can work things around with just one team. But when you have 7 teams that are Canadian teams, you knew that was going to be a problem. You knew it was going to be.
Not to mention, before they had taken that delay, do you remember they had said they had postponed all of the cross-border games for an even longer time period? So I'll be interested to see if that continues that trend or what's going to happen with that going forward. But you're right, because they do have those higher Canadian teams, a higher amount of Canadian teams, that definitely I think does change the outlook and what Bettman can do in that. And again, Bettman's not a great guy at his role, but still, in the same token, he does have a lot more of those Canadian teams he has to work with.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at some point in time, you're just going to have to say, we're playing with it. I mean, does anytime anybody's got a head cold, they're going to stop games? I don't know.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Alexander said he had a friend who test positive. One day he had symptoms. Other than that, that was it. Frank Hayes saying the Giants are a joke. Mara is a joke. Endorsing Judge to come back next year. Bring back Ray Hanley, too, while you're at it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Joe Judge is not coming back next year. And neither is Dave Gettleman. They're not coming back. I mean, today they got just annihilated by a really run-of-the-mill Eagle team. Got blown out today. They cannot keep him. They cannot keep him. One thing about the Giants, they are extremely loyal. But at some point in time, you just have to say, hey, let's just cut the cord and move in a different direction.
Well, let me ask you this, because it's an interesting point you brought up. When Mara says, hey, he wants to stay committed to Joe Judge, I take him at face value for that. And I think here's the other thing. I think Judge says, oh, well, here's the thing. Daniel Jones has been out. We haven't had Daniel Jones here, and Daniel Jones really has never been we've never had a full healthy cast and crew with Daniel Jones ready. So we don't really know what his ability is. I really think that that's what he's trying to use to keep his job somewhat intact.
Yeah. And Joe Judge said that he wants Daniel Jones back. I'm like, well, that just right there, that's a fireable offense, honestly.
Well, here's the thing. In his position, he can't say, hey, we need to find a new quarterback. Otherwise, that says, hey, his incompetence and inability. Remember, they drafted Daniel Jones when he was there, no? Or he inherited Daniel Jones. That's correct.
Yeah, he inherited Daniel Jones.
But here's the thing. If you say we need to get a new quarterback, they're going to change direction altogether. So that's why I think he's got to double down on Daniel Jones, whether he thinks he can do it or not. But go ahead.
Yeah, for me, they need to get rid of Daniel Jones because he can't play the position. I mean, I don't care what Joe Judge says. They need to get rid of him because he can't coach. Gettleman has to go because he's not a good GM.
Well, Gettleman screwed up every which way to Sunday. I tell you, Gettleman has made many, many poor picks and poor decisions in the first round, and it's cost the Giants from prime opportunities where other teams were able to take advantage of their situation. Now, I want to go ahead and show you, we talk about, hey, what coaches are maybe on the hot seat. You got to think Joe Judge is on the hot seat, even though what Mara said. Again, I tend to believe when the owner comes out and says, hey, we're not planning on moving them, we're double down, we're endorsing them. That being said, I wonder how much of that is just BS. You know what I mean? I wonder how much of that is just them trying to say, oh, no, we're going to – you see it all the time. You see it all the time. The Jaguars, I think the Jags did the same exact thing with Urban Meyer there as head coach. Want to talk about Matt Rule. The comment he made today, Grumpy, is nuts. He says, as I tell our team all the time, it took Jay-Z like 7 years.
Yeah, it took God 7 days to build the earth. This guy thinks it takes 7 years to change the fortunes of a football team.
When I hear that, I think to myself, right? It's called the not for long. The NFL, the abbreviation is the not for long for a reason. It's not the, hey, we're going to give you 7-10 years to go ahead and build up a program and build up an organization. No, Matt Rule. If you don't start producing and don't have those instant results, you're not going to be around long term. And now let me ask you this. Do you think Matt Rule is as good as gone for the Panthers?
I don't know if he's as good as gone. Their problem is they don't have a quarterback. And here's the issue with that. They were in prime position to draft a quarterback last year, and they decided to trade back, or they decided to pick a cornerback as opposed to a quarterback that they desperately needed. I thought it was a good move to pick up Sam Darnold in the offseason, but you should have drafted a quarterback and then worked him in. You have Darnold as your – and maybe Darnold pans out, right? He's not going to. But at the time, you didn't know that. He's only, 23 years old. Yeah. You have him play. You get the younger guy ready. It's always good. You have two quarterbacks. You can get rid of one, get a king's ransom for it, and have the new – and whoever wins the job as your starting quarterback the rest of the way. They just totally screwed the pooch on that. And I don't know who the GM is, honestly. But if Matt Rule was the guy making that decision, he's got to go. Because they're – desperately need a quarterback. Desperately.
General manager Scott Fritter.
Okay. I don't know. You know what? I don't know who he is. Sounds like a jerk. Sounds like a know-nothing to me.
Okay, no. This year was his first draft. So they fired. That's right. I think they fired the general manager last year.
I think it was Marty Herney who had been there previously.
Yep. They had brought in Marty Herney back again, and then they had got rid of him. They got a new general manager, but kept the same head coach.
Yeah. What, Scott Cornfritters, whatever the hell his name is?
Scott Fritterer. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Grump. I couldn't really tell you I know all that much about him first year as a general manager with the Panthers. I can't tell you I know too much. Maybe you know how to pronounce that. Fritter, right?
It's Fitterer.
Fitterer. Okay.
It's not Fritter. There's no R in the front.
I'm thinking about some apple fritter. Ooh, I can go for a nice little apple fritter.
Scott Apple Fritter. Apple Fritter. That's what it will be.
Oh, Scott Apple Fritter. Apple fritter, baby. I love it. Alexander saying, how about those Dolphins? With a win tomorrow, they'll jump into the 7th seed. Grumpy. 7th.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens tomorrow. Now, for a plus for the Dolphins is their top two quarterbacks are out with COVID. Not sick, but they're out. And they were the Saints were so desperate, they were contacting Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Joe Namath, Joe Montana, Warren Moon, anybody to come back and play this week. That's how desperate they were. So what does it tell you?
You meant to say that the Saints had two of their quarterbacks out. You said that, yeah. So the Dolphins are lucky, yes, and fortunate. Their quarterback, just to clarify, Tua is not out with COVID, but it's the Saints two quarterbacks, yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of hurts the Dolphins that he's still playing. But, what does it say about their faith in Ian Book as the quarterback? When you're really willing to go into the Wayback Machine, I'm surprised they didn't contact Tony Romo too.
And here's the thing. Drew Brees said they called him up to gauge his interest, and he just sent them a photo of him golfing. Had absolutely no interest on rejoining.
Yeah.
Or taking another step. I don't blame him. He's freaking finished, and you're right. For them to even ring the doorbell or to shoot a text message to Drew Brees saying, hey, would you come back and play one more game for us? Yikes. The Saints have no quarterback option. They don't have a quarterback option when Winston or when Taysom Hill are healthy. They don't have an option when Simeon's healthy. They do not have a quarterback option. That's the biggest issue for the Saints.
Yeah, you can't lose your top 3 guys and expect to be competitive.
Even when those guys are healthy, they're still not bona fide NFL starters.
True.
So, yeah, crazy. Yeah, a lot of these cases are asymptomatic. And then What a Film saying, "Good evening, gents. Good evening, What How are you?
Always a
How are you,
pleasure.
my friend?" I tell you, grumpy old man. Got Anthony R saying they still shouldn't play. Wait about the players. What about the players who don't have the shot? If they play against or with someone who tests positives, they'll be at risk. That's a problem.
Well, that's the problem that they have. Here's the thing.
Why not wait? Anthony says.
Well, here's the thing. And I believe in vaccinations, but I don't think you should ostracize. I don't think people who are unvaccinated should be persecuted. But at the same point in time, that's on you. I mean, if you don't want to get vaccinated, you kind of run the risk or whatever. And that's with anything, right? I mean, there are other diseases that people get vaccinations for. If they don't get them, well, it's kind of on them, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
They're not hurting anybody but themselves, honestly.
What a Film saying, "Hope you guys are having a nice holiday." That we are, Woulda. Hope you're having a great holiday again, as everybody else is too. Tony Cheese saying, "I just think he looks like you. I don't have to hit the hair anymore. It's too easy of a target."
Oh, geez. And just as he says that, that's another hair shot right there. Good job, Tony.
I don't have to pick on him because he's got squinty eyes, but he's got, it's too easy. It's too easy of a target.
A little passive aggressive hair shot. I like it.
Yeah. Alexander saying Anthony Beauvillier, Kyle Palmieri apparently were added to the COVID list. So was Oliver Wahlstrom, Oliver Wahlstrom was added, as well as Zach Parise.
It was Beauvillier, who's already been on the COVID list.
Yeah, nuts. But he was COVID, but then tested negative and had 2 negative tests immediately after. So it was a false positive when the first time. That's what it said.
Cal Clutterbuck,
yeah,
Zach Parise, and Oliver Wahlstrom. Those are your 4 guys, as reported by the New York Post today.
Not good for the Islanders. I tell you. Well, here's the thing. Seems like Robin Salo had it before. The entire team seems to have had COVID already. I want to say the Islanders have had like 70 or 80% of their team has had COVID.
And they're all vaccinated except for Bodie Wild. He's still playing. I don't know. Figure it out.
Well, here's the thing. 70, 80%. You'd like to feel like hopefully we will not have any more disturbances or players out the remainder of the season that test positive for COVID if they've already had it like a month earlier.
I spoke with a doctor recently. It doesn't stop you from getting it, but what it does is it limits the effects of the disease.
Frank A saying Simon Holmstrom to the taxi squad.
God. Can you imagine? I'd love to say, tell me how who's going to be his mentor? Josh Bailey? Look.
Well, hey, maybe he can get some real quality training under Josh Bailey, on the job training. Frank K said, "Yeah, Mar already says he's coming back."
Well, then they're not getting rid of Gettleman either.
I tell you what, that is a huge mistake. Daniel Jones is not the answer at quarterback, and
Joe Judge. He's talking about Joe Judge, right?
Well, I'm just talking about they're going to stick with Daniel Jones too. I'm not saying Joe Judge can't be an effective coach. I'm just saying they don't have the quarterback.
But I think Frank's talking about Joe Judge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe Judge is coming back. Daniel Jones is coming back too.
And so is Dave Gettleman.
That's what I'm saying. You're not going to see any changes. All you're going to see is them draft and hopefully maybe sign a guy here or there. You're not going to see a lot of.
All I have to say is, Giants fans, get ready for more pain. It's coming. This is like the Giants used to be in the 1970s, the early 70s. It was brutal being a Giants fan. Brutal.
Jeez, man, oh man, I'll tell you. And then What a Film saying the Chiefs sure look like a team, the team to beat right now.
Yep,
They've been getting
100% agree. 100% agree.
They beat the absolute brakes off of the Pittsburgh Steelers today. I'm talking about beat the living crap out of the Steelers today, Grumpy.
And the Steelers are not a good team, but the Chiefs are getting good at the right time, if you know what I mean. And that's what it is. It's about who's peaking at the right time. To me, Green Bay's winning games, but man, they're awful close. and they're just kind of hanging on. Uh, I think they're probably going to clinch the bye in the NFC, but I don't think that they're going to win the Super Bowl. I think Kansas City's team to beat right now. 100% agree.
Big Ben is completely finished.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody says, "Hey, we love you, Big Ben." Big Ben's finished, man. I mean, he's right. You talk about the sun setting, and it's completely set on a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, the sun is completely set for Big Ben. Jesus, man, he's just toast.
Yeah. You know, one of the worst thing about it, after I burned through all my quarterbacks with COVID, that's the guy that I had to put in my lineup today, all 6 points worth.
Mm.
Sealed my fate.
I'm just telling you, man. When I look at this, it's unfortunate. We talk about how the era of these golden quarterbacks, right? We really did the last, even like 10 some odd years ago, 5 some odd years ago. You look at all the quarterbacks that were in the league that were just like these iconic guys that are going to be possible Hall of Fame quarterbacks, right? He's one of the last ones. Tom Brady's going to be the last of that crop to leave, but Ben Roethlisberger was the second to last guy off that list too. You're just
And
seeing that the changing of the guard is almost completed. And I mean, Big Ben is just the age has got to him, and it's only a matter of time before the same happens to Tom Brady.
well, Tom Brady actually talked about potentially retiring. They asked him a question, and they said, what would it be? Would it be your heart, your head, or your athletic ability that would cost you when you make your retire? He said, it's not going to be my head or my athletic ability. It'll be his heart. And he brought up about he thinks he can play till he's 50.
He's
But he
not
says he said he's not going to be there for another 5 years because he has 2 children or 3 children, 14, 12, and 8 or 9 that need his time as well. So I think you maybe see 1, 2 more years of him and he's done.
I was about to say probably max maybe 2 years left if he's really. I mean, that's still even a lot. Ideally, right? He wants to go ahead and maybe make a chance at it this year, maybe one more year, and that's I think the end for Tom Brady.
He's
But go
Yeah,
ahead.
he signed for this year and next year.
That's what I think. After this contract's over, he's gone. I think he'll retire, and he should. I mean, man, kick back, enjoy a little bit. TB12, man, you've done it all. You've done it all. I know you're never going to get beaten. You're never. It's never going to. Nobody's ever going to catch you.
No,
Nobody.
no, nobody. Not while I'm alive, anyway. Game has changed too much. Free agency, that you're just not going to see it. Sustained success is just almost non-existent in the NFL.
You talk about over the last like 5 some odd years, these quarterbacks that have retired, right? The changing of the guard over the last 5 years. Yeah, Drew Brees, right? Hall of Famer. You got Phillip Rivers, arguably Hall of Famer. I mean, Tom Brady's not retired yet, but he's going to be one of those guys that are going to be, in that closing era. Now, Eli Manning, could you see Eli Manning squeaking his way somehow into the Hall of Fame?
No, no, no,
Really?
wasn't that good. Peyton Manning, yes, just got in. Roethlisberger, yes, I see him getting in. Drew Brees, yes, I see him getting in, but not Eli. There's no way. I'm sorry, he just wasn't that good. It's not the whole very good. It's the Hall of Fame.
I could see them. Number one, he's a likable character. He does a lot in media, and that helps his case. Like I think Steve Smith from the Carolina Panthers and also the Baltimore Ravens, he'll find a way, I think, to make it into the Hall of Fame just because he does a lot with media after the fact. It's all just a media popularity contest, too. You've got to be liked. He's one of those guys that are liked. So I think if you're liked by the press, they could look over possibly some of the inadequacies you had as a player.
Yeah, but it's a big process to go through. It's not just like just media guys vote. They actually have a conglomeration of guys who pick the players. I just don't think that Eli's getting in. I don't think he was good enough. And I think, as opposed to, talking about Steve Smith, he's going to fall into the group of, well, you know what? All these wide receivers are putting up great numbers. We just can't put every wide receiver in because they are putting up bigger numbers than they used to in the past. The game has changed. Now, I think if you see 2,000-yard rushers now, those guys are automatically getting in just because of how drastically different the game is now. So.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough, Grump. And then I'm like probably Aaron Rodgers. Maybe if you consider him part of that class, he's an older quarterback. But I'm just like it's the changing of guard is almost completed, and it was sad to see Big Ben. I mean, like as much as maybe you hated Big Ben, right? If you were playing against him, let's say you're in the same division, you're a big Bengals fan or a big Ravens fan, you're in a division against Big Ben all the time, and he's pounding on your team, right? You never want to see the guy just completely be finished and cashed out like he is now. It's the same thing when I was watching Drew Brees last year for the Saints. He was just miserable. And you just think to yourself, if they had a real quarterback, they would still be really good. But he's living off of prior performances. That's why they're keeping him around. And there's no way he should be in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, yeah, Roethlisberger's done. He was done before this year even started, honestly. Just like Brees was done a year before his last year. Everyone knows it. And they just stuck around 1 year too long. It's not going to hurt their legacy, honestly. But same thing with Peyton Manning, right? Even though he won a Super Bowl last year, he did nothing for Denver that year. Nothing.
And then Alexander says here, Matt Rule is a freaking idiot.
Yeah. 7 years. Dude, you're not getting 7 years. I'm sorry. You're not getting another 5 years after the 2 failed years. Now, in his defense, they don't have a quarterback. I don't know who to blame on that. I don't know what power he has on the back end. I have no idea. But losing Christian McCaffrey for 2 years, that really hurt their offense. Really, their defense is pretty good, actually, but their offense is just abysmal.
And here's the thing, too. Christian McCaffrey's never expect the prior performances you've seen out of Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to say he's finished. I'm just saying he's injury prone as all get out. And when you've got a running back who's injury prone, it's not beneficial. That's one of the positions where you can't be injury prone and expect to have any sort of success with your career.
Yeah, that contract he signed is, yikes.
Good for Christian McCaffrey signing that contract. I'm happy he got paid, right? He got paid on past performances because he was definitely underpaid when he was winning MVP trophies and was lighting the world on fire. He had, I think, one of the seasons he won the MVP trophy, he was involved in something like over 95% of the Carolina Panthers plays on offense or something like that. He never took a break. Guy was getting the catching the passes, running the ball. He just got his ass beat up, and he got paid. I'm glad he did.
Well, yeah, it wasn't that high percentage, but the whole thing is that's what happens with running backs. Why they don't last long. That's why you never give a running back a second contract for the most part, because just the wear and tear, the physicality. Every time that you're involved in a play, you're getting hit every single time.
Think about the Cowboys. I know the Cowboys are able to have everything going. The Cowboys are a good team. Good team. They play in the worst division of football. I mean, the Washington football team, the New York Giants, yikes, and the Eagles are yikes bad. I think all three of those teams are just bottom of the barrel. If they're in a tough division, imagine if they're in the NFC West facing off against like the Rams and facing off against the 49ers and teams like that. I mean, those teams would be at the bottom of the barrel, no doubt about it. But
they play Arizona next week, so
Arizona speaking about Arizona has freaking fallen off the map. This is the second year in a row now where Kyler Murray has just kind of gone invisible towards the second half and the tail end of the season.
And you wonder if it's from, a smaller guy, a slightly built player, where the course of the season just kind of wears down. That's the whole thing with those smaller players. They can't take the punishment. He's missed games the last couple of years too, right?
Yeah.
He's a frail fella. Tremendous talent, fantastic arm, great escapability, reads the field pretty well, but he can't take a lot of hits. He's just too small.
I just think about it, right? They have lost in their last 6 games. They're 2-4 in their last 6 games. They play the Cowboys and they play the Seahawks again. I mean, the Cardinals, yikes. It's crazy to think about how everybody was all high and mighty on Kingsbury and everything like that, and how quickly the momentum and the tide can change.
Yeah, without a doubt. 100% agree with you.
Yeah. And then Frank Hay saying Mara is riding off of Eli's rings.
Well, he owns a team, so he's not going anywhere. People had the same complaints about his old man, Wellington Mara. The Giants were really, really bad for a long time, and they came under heat. The only thing that made them change their practice is when season tickets started going down, and the fans were really, really unhappy and voicing that opinion to the Maras. That's when everything changed, with first Ray Perkins and then Parcells after that. That's what changed it for them. Bringing in George Young as general manager, which is probably the greatest hire they ever made, honestly. it was people forget, older people know, but young people have no idea how bad the Giants were back in the late 70s. Oh, terrible. The fumble. Oh, I remember where I was.
Vince Apolli, right? He recovered that fumble for a touchdown.
No. It was Joe Pisarcik got a play in from the sideline. John McVay was the coach, and Larry Zonka, who signed
McVay, is that Sean McVay's son or Sean McVay's father?
I don't know. But they sent in a play. There was like 10 seconds to go in the game. Giants had the game won, and they call a handoff to the running back, and they're in the huddle going, "Just kneel it." No, they want us to go with this play. He goes to Pisarcik, Parkway Joe Pisarcik goes to hand the ball off to Larry Zonka, fumble. Herman Edwards picks it up, runs it up in for a touchdown. 1917 Eagles win. Oh, terrible. Brutal. John McVay was gone the next day. Next day, gone. That was the beginning of that was the end, and then they turned it around. And the negativity from the fans to the Maras back then was really, I mean, you never see ownership groups getting just shredded, but man, oh man, it was bad in New York for a while.
So John McVay is actually his grandfather.
There you go.
Crazy. Small world. Yeah. John McVay is his grandfather here. What a film's also saying here. I see how big of a guy you are, TJ, on the podcast you did in your room. You don't look that big sitting in a chair, but you're a bit of a giant. I'm big. Yeah, I'm a big guy, but the camera angle makes me look more normal size. So
makes you look more bald too.
Doesn't bother me either which way. Alexander said, Grump, since coming off the IR, Tua's top 5 in quarterback rating and completion percentage.
Do we need to go through this?
Hey, it's good, and also, right, it's helped. They've had a very, very beneficial schedule here down.
I say, who they play?
I will say Flores has definitely done enough to keep his job.
Yeah,
right?
Brian Flores is a good coach. He's a good coach.
I was about to say Brian Flores, and think about it, they lost to the Jags earlier on this year in London. If they didn't do that, they'd be sitting in a completely different seat. But I mean, you think Flores, right? He's done enough to keep his job. You talk about a guy who at the beginning half of the season was on the hot seat, has won enough games now where to say, yes, we believe in you, Brian Flores, going forward. Go ahead, and you've got another year at least on the job.
And I remember Alexander wanting him to go, and I'm like, I think he's a good coach. And I still think he's a good coach. He's the type of guy you want on the bench. He really is. I think their GM has drafted poorly the last 3 years, really poorly, considering how many picks they have. It were all bad picks, overdrafting guys. At some point in time, he said, you know what, I'm not going to try to outsmart somebody. I'm not just picking for need. Man, just pick the best player. They had so many picks in the first round the last 3 years. It's like, man, you really squandered that opportunity. Really did.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about Chris.
You picked Noodles over Herbert. That was the biggest mistake.
You're talking about Chris Greer.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris Greer. I don't know if he's Bobby Greer's son, the ex-failed GM for the New England Patriots. But like I said, how do you, and we talked about it draft day. Herbert was way better than Noodles, and they picked Noodles first.
It's something that will always baffle many grumpy old men. That being said, before we get too further into the podcast, we do have an ad to read from Draftkings. Hockey fans, Draftkings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a no-brainer offer that will make you a winner once any shot gets past the goalie. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores. The NHL got rid of ties in 2005, so somebody is going to light the lamp. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, no worries. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN and throw down $1 on any NHL game and win 100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. That's promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. You must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum of a $5 deposit and a $1 wager is required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Wonderful job, TJ. Only one bumble.
Hey, they changed up the ad a little bit. They had a little different wording on it, Grumpy. What can I say? First time. But, getting back to the hot seat, right? You assume Matt Nagy of the Chicago Bears, he's as good as gone.
Gone.
Yeah, he should be. He's miserable. Joe Judge, they say he's got the faith of Mara, but I'm not so sure. And as you see here brought up, I think it is by I see a further comment here. Oh man, I'm sorry. I got mixed up in the comment.
I hear that Dave Gettleman is considering retirement.
Yes, that I cannot. I'm trying to see somebody. Yeah, and I'll pull up that on screen here.
That's fine.
Gettleman, and I think the Giants have said that they've agreed to part ways in some capacity.
Okay,
so he's not likely to return. Now, this was earlier in the season.
Okay,
this is about when were these reports came out? These reports came out in November.
Okay, let's say Gettleman retires, and you're bringing new GM. As a new GM, are you going to say, yeah, I want to ride with the same thing that didn't work before? Or are you going to say, I'm bringing in my own guy and my own quarterback? Now, the conspiracy theorist in me says, yeah, they'll ride with that guy for a year or two before changing everything up when they realize it doesn't work. Why? Because it'll give the GM an extra 2 years to rebuild the team, everything around them. And GMs don't get hired nearly as often as coaches do. So that new GM is going to have at least one coaching hire, maybe two, before he's gone. So does he want to do his first coaching change as soon as he comes in? If it was me, I would. But a lot of them, they're interested in job security. So, okay, that's who you want, Mr. Owner Boy? No problem. We'll go with Joe Judge and Daniel Jones for another year or two, and then we'll change direction again, because that's what's going to have to happen. Daniel Jones is not going to be the answer, and Joe Judge is not the answer as head coach.
Frankie G, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, he said he's stepping down, they said, and retiring. I forgot. I had no idea. Gettleman's 80 years old.
That explains why he's no longer a good GM.
I guess it just has passed him by.
How old's Lou Lamoriello? Oops.
I had a feeling, Grumpy. I had a feeling. Yeah. I'm sorry. He's 71 years old. Well, 71, 80. I'm sorry.
He'll and Lou's 78.
71 next year.
And Lou's 78. Okay.
Yeah. Jeff E says here, what's up with the Canadian teams crossing over the border to play? Are they allowing them now, or the Oilers game going to be played on Saturday? I know they put a break on it. As of right now, the Oilers will be able to play Saturday. I think that they will allow, again, more cross-border games to be resumed as per usual. But I'm just not sure if, the Canadian government's going to say, hey, we're going to put another pause on it. And, I mean, what type of – if the Canadian government says we're going to put another pause on it, that just puts a huge stumbling block in front of the NHL.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to go back to the bubble. I don't understand the Canadian government. I just don't. If you think you're going to keep a virus out of your country, it's not happening. You're just prolonging the inevitable. It's all you're doing.
You sound like one of those. Supervillains, and the Canadian government doesn't understand. Anyway, Alexander says, when you get a chance, GJ, I set you a fan. Oh, that is actually the fan fight I was going to show, Alexander. So we're on the same page. Frank K said it's only a matter of time before Varley or Sorokin gets it. Yeah, that would be death to this team. Could you imagine if both those goalies were out with COVID? Oh, God almighty.
It wouldn't be good for us.
It would not be good for us. They're the only team. They're the only players that do anything. Tony Cheese says, if the Islanders can't beat the Red Wings on Wednesday, the season's over.
It's funny. I was talking with a Canadiens fan over our little break, and he was saying how, man, the Canadians stink. They're done. Just looking, paying for Shane, all that stuff. And I'm like, you realize a lot of Islander fans think that they still have a legit shot for the playoffs. And he's like, he couldn't actually believe that, honestly, that that's how people thought. And, that's the whole thing, right? We'd have to totally change the way the season has gone this year, like flip flop. We almost like wouldn't like 115% of our games to make the playoffs now, DJ?
Yeah, I think we need to win about 170% of our games. It just got
Okay.
upped. Just got upped a tiny bit. Frank K saying Ben stayed too long. Ben Roethlisberger can't even hold the ball. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did see that interception today. Yikes, bad.
You can usually see the end of the quarterback the year before. And like I mentioned, Drew Brees, it was 2 years ago. He just can't throw the ball anymore. And he hung around for one more year. And I'm like, he can't throw. And it was the same thing bringing Roethlisberger back this year. He might have done them a favor by the way they structured his contract. He was going to be a $40 million cap hit if he retired after last year. So I think he kind of did them a little bit of a favor. But it's still going to be a huge cap hit. And he's definitely has to be gone. Then you're going to see Pittsburgh, who's had really talk about a team that's sustained really good football for, 30 some odd years.
Yep.
And that's over. That's absolutely over right now because they don't have a quarterback.
Well, I was about to ask you the same thing. Are we about to see the sunset on? I mean, I don't have an epileptic attack when I say this, Grump. But the Steelers, longevity wise, have been one of the most successful franchises in all of the NFL.
Very
And I would argue over the last 20 some odd years, they've been close to a dynasty. I know the Super Bowls aren't there. I'm just talking about prolonged success every single year, making it deep into the playoffs. They've been a very, very successful team. And even before Ben Roethlisberger. Now, I mean, they obviously lucked into having Ben turn out to be a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback the year they drafted him. And they were fortunate with who they're able to select. But are we going to see them kind of tail off or fall off the face of the earth without the quarterback? I mean, and does that put Mike Tomlin's job in jeopardy?
Mike Tomlin's job is not in jeopardy. I think he's a good head coach. They've had 3 head coaches in 50 some odd years. Think about that. That's stability in a franchise right there. The ownership, very, very stable. They know how to pick head coaches, right? Noel to Cowher to Tomlin. And to me, they desperately need a quarterback, though. I mean, until you have one, you're not going to be competitive.
Well,
And
I'm not saying he's going to be fired immediately. I'm just saying if you don't find a quarterback, it's going to be a continued issue. And right, they were in a precarious situation last year where they didn't have an extremely high draft pick. They were sitting around the mid-teens or late teens. And this year they're going to be around the mid-teens as well, unless they make a bold move. And again, I'm not even sure the quarterback, a franchise caliber quarterback, is out there in this year's draft. Right? Kenny Pickett seems to be the first one off the list, but there's nothing guaranteeing that he's going to be a success in the NFL. And you think to yourself, last year was a very, very quarterback heavy draft. And I'm just saying, okay, it means that probably the Steelers are going to struggle the year after. And then even with a new quarterback 2 years down the road, in best case scenario for the Steelers, they're still going to probably struggle with a new quarterback.
yeah, but Tomlin's not making those decisions on who to draft. So, if you don't get a quarterback, and here's the thing, he's been a winner the whole time he's been there. They're not just going to jettison him after a couple of bad years. They need to get a new quarterback, somebody who can actually play. I mean, he should not be held because they don't have a quarterback. He should not be held to, well, you're not winning anymore. Well, you got to get me a quarterback. Look who I got. Mason Rudolph. Is he the guy that you want in there? You need somebody else. You got to have to get somebody.
Fair enough, Grumpy. Alexander's saying here, guys, did you see Harbaugh get pissed off at Zach Taylor for allegedly running up the score?
Let me tell you something. John Harbaugh is the last freaking guy who should be talking shit like that. He like these unwritten rules, but he does stuff against them all the time. He's a loser. Bye-bye, John. Maybe you should keep your quarterbacks healthy. Maybe you should learn how to draft a quarterback who could throw the ball accurately. I'll tell you what, watching Tyler Hundley, do you give Lamar Jackson a big contract extension? I'm
don't know.
questioning it,
I
honestly.
don't know. Think about it. Lamar Jackson has been he's struggled this year without the running game. I'm not saying right. You talk about it. Was it 2 seasons ago? Lamar Jackson's MVP caliber always fantastic, right? They have a great running game. Mark Ingram rushes for 1,000 yards. Another running back rushes for 1,000 yards, and so does Lamar Jackson. They're lighting the world on fire. Everything's going right. Gus Edwards gets hurt. J.K. Dobbins gets hurt. He struggles because the running game isn't there, and he's kind of looked meh. But I mean, Huntley looked like he could be a really real diamond in the rough.
He
And you kind of wonder how much value or overvalue is put into Lamar Jackson. No idea.
Okay, Lamar Jackson to me has Cam Newton disease. And what I mean by that is great athlete, tremendous football player, not a great quarterback. His everything is predicated on him running the ball. He's not going to be able to stand in the pocket and be accurate down the field if that's his whole game. It's just not who he is. Nothing wrong with that, but to expect you just look at the Huntley kid do the same thing and better than Lamar Jackson. And how do I know Lamar Jackson hasn't been good this year? He was on my freaking fantasy team putting up like 8 points a game, 7 points a game, 0.5 points a game. I mean, and the Huntley kid did better in his short cameo.
That being said, when I think you talk about Cam Newton disease, I think what some quarterbacks do, and I blame this more on coaching than anything else, right? Coaches say, we need the immediate win. Go out there and we're going to tailor make everything to what we can do to be successful for the now. And it gets quarterbacks caught in this, okay, I need to be scrambling because that's what coach wants me to do. I can make a lot of great plays happen with my legs. I'm going to take a beating while doing so, but it's going to help the team win. Instead of saying, hey, we're going to take some lumps and bruises a little early on, but I want to develop your ability to stand more confidently in the pocket. I want to make you more of that pocket passer type of quarterback mentality. But when something happens, right, you've got the Russell Wilson ability to escape and get out of the pocket. Same thing with Kyler Murray, right? Kyler Murray is a guy who stands in the pocket first. If things break down, then he finds a way out. Lamar Jackson still says, I want to get out of the pocket as much as humanly possible. And if things even look like they might break down, I want to run the football. It's a little different mentality. So I think it hurts the development of the quarterback. But I did want to show you the interview afterwards. You talk about a freeze frame. I wanted to show you the interview afterwards that Zach Taylor had regarding the question. I believe they asked him about Harbaugh.
You've been here in seasons where you have a lot of bad luck with injuries. Things that happen the first years. You're not going to feel sorry for that situation.
No.
But I mean,
heck no. No, heck no. No. They week 17 last year, we had hardly anybody left, and I didn't feel anybody minimizing their win against us. And so we sure as heck know how hard it is to win in December. These guys have fought hard. We asked them to answer the bell. They did. And that's still the Baltimore Ravens out there. We're playing meaningful football for them. And so our guys shouldn't apologize for 1 second for the performance they went out there and did today. And dang proud of those guys for how they hung in there the full course of the game and handled, the adversity we've had over the course of time too. And it's just our time to sit out there and make a mark for ourselves.
Not going to apologize for beating the brakes off of Harbaugh is what it seems like.
No. And I just wanted to touch on, you were mentioning the guys who learn, be better pocket passers. You could put Mahomes and Rodgers in that group too.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. You look at the Cam Newtons and the Lamar Jacksons, and I'll try to come up with somebody else. Joe Burrow, I think, also fits into the Mahomes group.
I think Josh Allen fits into the Lamar Jackson group and the Cam Newton group because the guy, I tell you, he's going to put himself to way too much of a beating physically to be a successful long-term quarterback option.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Jackson's whole game, just like Cam Newton's, was predicated on running the ball. They were run-first guys. Josh Allen was not, okay? But you're right. I think he's closer to that group. He's a guy who I look just some of the shots he takes. I'm like, dude, you need to learn how to go down. I mean, that's what's going to wind up, knocking him out of the game. Yep. But you look at Jackson and you say, you think it's a coaching staff. Well, here's the thing. Maybe those coaches, and what's the thing about Newton and Jackson? Just not very accurate throwing the ball. And if you're not accurate, why do you want them in the pocket? You have to do what they do best, which is throw on the run or get guys coming up to free open receivers down the field. They're just not very accurate throwing the ball, into tight spaces. Those are just facts. And that's why I think those guys, I don't know if you can coach accuracy into them, if you know what I mean. Kind of are a jar. And both have kind of funky throwing motions too. I want to mention one thing. You were ripping Joe Burrow and the Bengals early this year, weren't you?
I said that Joe Burrow, when I see his performance, I was unimpressed with his performances earlier on. Today's performance was fantastic. I'm not expecting him to throw for 500 yards every game. I'm just saying, with the wide receiver crew he's got out there, he should be a guy to where it should be a shock when he's not throwing for 300 plus yards. Again, mind you, he's got a fantastic running back in Joe Mixon who eats up yards and is a king of yak yards on screens, any type of pass available. CJ Uzama, who's a more than capable tight end. And you've got three fantastic wide receivers in Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins, right? Those are three unbelievable options. And when I see the production that I've seen out of him and kind of the Jekyll and Hyde, that did worry me this year.
Okay.
Certain.
That's why I'm going to stop you. The last 3 weeks, he's been really good.
Terrific.
About how long is that from tearing the knee ligaments? About a year out from when he had that knee injury? I told you it was going to take some time. Now the kid's lighting it up with still a suspect offensive line. He's been really good the last month. Really good. Really good. Like I said, you wrote him off after half a year and blowing out his knee. You wrote him off.
I just said I needed him to step it up.
Okay. Cincinnati, 525 yards is stepping it up.
For certain it is.
Here's the thing. Cincinnati was the dregs of the NFL for how long? This kid comes in there, and in a year and a half, they're gonna make the playoffs this year. That's how much the quarterback is important in the NFL. That says it all right there. They have a quarterback. The Chargers, even though they lost today to Houston, what an ugly loss.
Holy crap. You talk about how the hell did they lose? I know they had key players out, but man, you can't be losing to Houston like that.
You cannot be losing to Houston.
No.
I mean, but you look at Houston, right? I'm sorry, you look at the Chargers. 2 years ago, one of the worst teams in the league. All of a sudden now they got a quarterback. They're contending for a playoff spot. I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I really am. The Buccaneers are done. I mean, without a doubt, they're done. Too many injuries, and the coaching is just too dumb. But I'm really interested in the AFC. I think the Chiefs are going to win, but I think those early games are going to be fun to watch.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Grump. Yeah, let me ask you this now, to piggyback off of the Cincinnati Bengals. The performance we've seen this year and the performance out of Jamar Chase, right? I could say I'm eating a crow. I'm eating my words. Jamar Chase was the right selection over Penei Sewell for the Bengals. It's even though I think that having offensive line help would be good for them. I just think adding that as a weapon, and you've seen the results on the field this year. Chase has been fantastic, and I know that they've been a little Jekyll and Hyde offensively at times. But I'd say that it looks like that pick has been more in their favor this year than the question mark that I originally had when they drafted Jamar Chase over Sewell.
Yeah, to me, and Jamar Chase has had good games, really good games, but then he's been invisible. Remember, he's not a refined route runner or anything like that, like the Higgins kid and the Tyler Boyd. They're good route runners. This kid just kind of runs down the field, which, I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They need another weapon, somebody to stretch the field, and good for them. But in the long run, I thought it would have been better if they had another offensive lineman in there. That's just me. Because like I said, these wide receivers now are a dime a dozen coming out of the league. Dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm. Alexander also saying, Grump, I don't know. Eli did win 2 Super Bowls. And Frank saying here, Eli is going to make it in because of the Manning name. I do believe that carries weight.
But he was a 500 career winning percentage quarterback.
Yes.
And his numbers were not great. I'm sorry. No. He's a no. I mean, Jim Plunkett is not in the Hall of Fame. He won 2 Super Bowls. I mean, he's not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, there's a lot of guys who've won Super Bowls. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. He's not in the Hall of Fame.
Eli Manning had a lot of good stats. The stat line he's got is good. That being said, grumpy old man, I don't think, you look at talent-wise, I don't say he's one of the most talented quarterbacks that have ever lived. So, but I'm just saying that the Manning name does carry weight, as messed up as that sounds, right? The dad's a Hall of Famer. The brother's a Hall of Famer.
No, Archie Manning is not a Hall of Famer.
Fair enough.
He was my favorite player as a kid growing up. I used to love him.
On the
Running
Saints.
around out there for the Saints.
Alexander saying, TJ Grump, what do you think about the Mets hiring up Buck Showalter, Grumpy?
Great signing. Great signing. I just hope they play. I was talking with TJ off air earlier this week, and I said, man, I think Buck, I'm excited to watch the Mets. I'd love to. I mean, it looks like they made some positive moves this offseason, and I'm excited to watch them. I still think they need another starting pitcher because we don't know about Carrasco. But, I mean, you got the two studs at the top. Marte was a good signing. Escobar is another nice guy to have in your infield rotation. Everyday player, productive. And I think Showalter's a really good manager. Really good.
It just seems to be in typical Mets fashion. They could structure this team together, and maybe the season's going to be locked out. Right? They're still locked out at the moment. So who will bend? We shall find out. But it's like on day 23 or 27, 28, something like that of the lockout already. So I'll be interested to see how long that continues.
It's going to go for a while. They had a meeting last week, which was the first time since December 1st. I'm like, oh boy, they're not in any hurry to get this taken care of.
Were they in a very giving mood with Christmas around that time period? When they're in a giving mood, Grumpy?
No.
Oh,
They had a little Scrooge action going on. I'm certain of that.
Alexander,
And there's a lot of free agents haven't signed yet.
Yeah. Alexander also saying here, who would have thought that 26-year-old would be considered injury prone to McCaffrey, right? It's crazy.
He's a running back.
Think about Todd Gurley. Think about this. Todd Gurley won the offensive rookie of the year in 2015.
He's been out of the league for 2 years, right?
Yeah, his last year playing was 2020. He played a little bit for the Falcons, right? But his dominance, right? He was rushing for more than 1,000 yards, killing it in the game for 4 years. He had 4 really, really dominant years. 2 years he was an all-pro, and that was in 2017, 2018. Then the next year when he was 25 for the Rams, only had 857 yards, and then he was released by the Rams. He signed there with the Falcons, only had 678 yards, and hasn't played at all this year. But 4 really, really solid years.
The shelf life for running backs is like minuscule. It's you're getting hit and hit hard on every single play. Every single play. That's why they don't last. You can only take so many shots like that. And just to show you,
that's why drafting a running back and as a top 10 pick is the most moronic, stupid thing any organization can ever do.
Okay, not true. But
yes,
that's okay.
Very true.
Well, Vincent Jackson, who used to play wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I think the San Diego Chargers, they found him dead, I think about a month ago, and the autopsy results showed that he had stage 2 CTE. And he didn't take a whole lot of punishment, but it just shows you that the physicality of the sport leads to degenerative brain disease. And that's why it's not surprising to me when you see those results and you wonder how many of these players, particularly the ones who are just getting hammered every single play, how long before they have something wrong with them.
And you think about too, Calvin Johnson. You think about a lot of these players who say, I'd rather hang up the cleats. You think about Andrew Luck too. A lot of these players, and again, it's not a whole bunch, but handfuls of really, really talented players that say, no, thank you. I'm going to hang up the cleats. I don't want to go ahead and do that. I think that's exactly what happened with Calvin Johnson. He had concussions, he had brain issues, and he said, "No, I'm not doing this anymore." Fantastic wide receiver, retired at the top of his game at 30, 31 years old. And Andrew Luck's another one of those guys as he was entering the prime of his career, retires because he says, "No, I just don't want to take the beating anymore."
Well, they make so much money now, where back in the day, they weren't making that kind of money. They need to support their family. A little bit different now. And a lot more things now than you did back then.
Yep.
So, it kind of is what it is. I don't blame anybody if they don't think they can play anymore or don't want to risk injury. That's on them. But like I said, that's why you don't give running backs second contracts. First contracts are okay, but second ones, just so many guys don't make it. Adrian Peterson was the one exception to the rule.
Yep.
He was the one.
I was going to say, look at as of recent, right? You look at those guys drafted in the top 5 or top 10 picks. Adrian Peterson has definitely panned out for where he was drafted. Would you say Ezekiel Elliott deserved a second contract? Do you think, again, you look at it, 4 or 5 years of great production. After that, he's playing I share time with Tony Pollard now.
At the time he signed the contract, yes. But the whole thing is, you only last for how many years has Zeke Elliott been in the league now? 6. I mean, you're right. He splits time with Tony Pollard now. Same thing with McCaffrey, right? What, 4 years before he started getting hurt, signed a big extension. His last year, he was really good. It's like, man, you can't give those guys second contracts because for the most part, they all burn out. You might have your exceptions like Adrian Peterson, and I'm not going to even go back in the day like Peyton, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, not guys like that. But I'm talking about the super huge contracts. The game is just played differently right now. So it's just not smart to give second contracts. But here's the thing. If you're the best player on the board, you should get picked.
Oh, that's where you and I disagree a bit. I'm sorry. Running backs just don't get it for me like that, right? You look at, and I told you right here with Todd Gurley, right? First 4 years, fantastic production. And think about it, right? 2018, 17 rushing touchdowns. Remember, a fantasy machine. Everybody loves Todd Gurley. Man, fell off a little bit the year afterwards, and then in Atlanta, and then he completely is no longer in the NFL. And now I'll show you what happened with Elliott, right? You talk about Elliott, how he's kind of had his little bit of a backstep, right? First few years, grumpy old man with Ezekiel Elliott, right? First 4 years. First 4 years, fantastic performance, right? Killing it in the NFL, right? Putting up plenty of yards, a lot of receiving yards, looks very versatile. Yeah, then 2020, not so much in 2021, right? He's probably going to have over 1,000 yards rushing again.
Yeah, he's not worth the money that they paid that second contract for him. Just not. For a guy you draft in the first round, you have that 5th round option, 5 years on a running back. I'm willing to move on. It's just that simple. I'm willing to move on.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think that's not a bad idea. Jeremy Ford says, Merry Christmas, guys. Merry Christmas, Jeremy.
Thank
Merry
you,
Christmas, all. Thank you. He says, hey, grumpy old man, is your shirt a message for Islander fans? Don't stop believing. How optimistic of you, Grumpy.
No, this is Foreigner, and it says, the flame still burns. It's funny, Foreigner. I went to see them in concert a couple of years ago, and they're really like a cover band now. Mick Jones was still there, but they were really just like, everyone else is a young member of the band. They haven't been there for long. They're like a fancy cover band, but they were good. I enjoyed it.
Tony Cheese says, my uncle said that this is the worst team that the Giants have fielded since before Parcells.
Yeah, pretty close. I mean, that's why I brought up the John McVay game, 1978. Man, this is what this kind of reminds me of. They were flying planes over the Meadowlands Stadium back then. I don't think you can get away with it now. Probably get shot down. But, saying fire marrow, whatever the heck it was back then. But, yeah, it was ugly scene back then, and they're really, really bad. I don't see how the coach survives this. If you bring in a new GM, the first thing, this guy is not my guy. I don't want him hitched to my wagon.
Tony Cheese saying, I prefer the more uncomfortable pre-recorded ad read over the live ones. Well, Tony, makes it easier for me to do it during the live. So that's what we'll do. Alexander says, Phillips, 9.5 sacks. Holland, 3 interceptions. Starting also second-round pick, over 80 tackles. Safety, Jalen Waddle, on the verge of breaking the Dolphins' rookie receiving record. He says this could be one of the best drafts the classes they've had.
Think about what they could have had if they drafted properly.
Mm-hmm. And then
Phillips fell to them.
Yeah. Frankie G says, I think they're going to bring in Abrams. He's been with the Giants for a long time. And if that fails, I think they'll blow everything up.
At some point in time, you have to go outside of the organization like they did back in 1978 when they brought in George Young. That's when Pete Rozelle was the commissioner of the NFL, and Wellington Mara didn't know what to do because he was too busy hiring giant executives, his gadflies for years and years and years. And he said, you know what? Who should I go? And he said, go with George Young. And the rest was history. George Young was an exceptional evaluator of talent. Exceptional. He built those Dolphin teams that went undefeated. He was just that good. Really, really good. And he liked world players. And those were guys that it took you, like you had to go around the world to try to stop them. So, or to get around them. Then there's only so many of those. And, we drafted Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms and Carl. I remember when they drafted Carl Banks. Everyone said, you don't need another linebacker. Well, Carl Banks was because they had Carson and Brian Kelly and Lawrence Taylor. It's like, well, you don't need Carl Banks. You need other positions. He's like, no, Carl Banks was the best player. They drafted him number 3. And I think they got William Roberts at 21 in that year later in the draft because everyone said they needed offensive line help. And Carl Banks was a phenomenal linebacker for the Giants and enabled Bill Belichick to scheme a whole lot of things because he was an all-around linebacker. I mean, George Young was fantastic, and his best thing was hiring Bill Parcells after Ray Perkins left. Just glory days for the Giants after years and years of just being crappy.
Tony Cheese saying, yellow flag on TJ for the stereotypical Russian antagonist voice. Yellow flags all around.
Yes, that's right, TJ. I don't want anything else with a squirrel and moose.
Squirrel and moose.
Boris bad enough.
And then Alexander said, I said it a couple weeks ago. Watch out for Rodgers to Pittsburgh.
I don't think they're good enough for Rodgers to go there. And he hasn't been linked to, he says he wants Denver of all teams. But I mean, honestly, Denver's a good fit for him. They're really good defensively. They have weapons. They just don't have a quarterback. I mean, there were teams he wanted to go to. None of them look like Super Bowl contenders. I just wonder what he's all about. Besides his little hippie haircut.
Besides his hippie haircut. Let me ask you this, Grumpy. How much drama do you think is going to be around Aaron Rodgers this offseason?
He's a free agent. He's not going back.
No. Just wondering if there's going to be any drama around it, because I think to myself, I'm like, and again, I'm not sure how many years left Kirk Cousins has on the contract. But the Vikings have. Was that?
He's not going to Minnesota. He's not going to pull a Favre. He's not going to Minnesota. They're a dumpster fire. They really are. Here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers, and why do I say Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back? Because he's following the Brady playbook. If you get a team to say that they can't franchise you when your contract expires, that means you're leaving. That's what that means. I'm out of here. Just like Brady did with the Pats, you're going to see Rodgers do it with the Packers.
All I'm going to say here is with this. Kirk Cousins, the last year of his contract? I think this is the last year of his contract. All I'm going to tell you is this here, grumpy old man. They've got offensive weapons. He's got 1 year left. I'm not sure if that's a team option or player option, but there's 1 year left on 2022. And I'm not sure. Okay, he hits free agency in 2023. I don't know. I just think Minnesota, right? You've got Dalvin Cook. He has injury question marks behind him. You've got Justin Jefferson, an outstanding wide receiver. You've got Adam Thielen. You've got weapons there. So, just one of those things, Grumpy. One of those things you always want.
Yeah, but Mike Zimmer's your coach. You got to remember, Aaron Rodgers wants where he's kind of in charge. I think Matt LaFleur's done a great job in Green Bay. A really good job. Underrated as far as I'm concerned as a coach.
I'm going to read a few comments, Grump, and I'm going to be right back. Frank K says, love Tomlin, but I could see them going in a different direction. Huntley is a better passer than Lamar Jackson, Grump, and I'll let you tackle this one.
Okay. I don't see Tomlin leaving Pittsburgh right now. They believe in stability in their head coaching spot. 3 coaches in 50 some odd years. They're not changing him unless he wants to go, but I don't think that's the case. And I think he's a good coach. They need to hit on a quarterback though, without a doubt, Pittsburgh. Huntley, I kind of agree with you, Alexander. I think that he is a better passer than Jackson. I never thought Lamar Jackson was a great thrower of the football. Got a cannon for an arm, but just not real accurate. And you have to be accurate in the NFL. Everything's predicated on his legs, and Huntley can run the ball too. They didn't miss a beat when Huntley was in there 2 weeks ago. And particularly running that offense is very, very difficult. Now, I look at this last comment from Alexander. Herbert and Jones are better than Tua. Please, people need to stop with that narrative. Herbert lost to a high school defense, and Jones benefits from an offensive line that is good. Last I checked, Tua has more quality wins than Herbert. Herbert, and Herbert has not faced adversity like Tua has. Herbert is better than Tua Tagovailoa. Everyone can see that, except Alexander with his turquoise and orange glasses on. That's okay. And I'm assuming you're talking about Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is good in the Patriots system and he stands in the pocket. I think his arm is not great. I think it's probably a little bit better than Tua's. They both come from Alabama. But I look at when you talk to the wide receivers who played for both of them, and they said that they liked Mac Jones as a quarterback better than Tua Tagovailoa. That should tell you something. It really does. You never hear players actually speak out against former teammates. And when they're picking one guy over another, that should be a red flag for you. I don't think Tua is that good. I think he's got a noodle arm, and I think that he's also injury prone. So, but that said, he's beaten the teams he's supposed to beat down the stretch here. There have been some bad teams, but it kind of is what it is. If I could have moved, I would have moved to a Tagovailoa to get Deshaun Watson. I think that could have put Miami over the top. I know they're letting Watson kind of stew in the background right now, but eventually he's going to play again in the league. And when that happens, I think Miami should be all in on him, to be honest with you, because he's better than all those guys right now. But to me, Herbert and Mac Jones are better than Tua Tagovailoa. And look who's back.
I am. Alexander also said, yeah, they put McNeil on the trade block, and Jackson also died from chronic alcohol use. Yeah, I did see that.
Well, yeah, and he had CTE. And that's what happens with a lot of guys with the CT. They go into, drinking or, something just to dull the pain that they're going through. What? Oh, is he talking about Jeff McNeil is on the trade block?
Yes.
See, I don't know why you'd want to trade him. I like him as, a guy. Everybody doesn't play every game, so he could still play a lot of games. I like him as a player. He can play the outfield. He can play, second base. I think he can play a little bit of third. I mean, I don't have a problem with keeping Jeff McNeil in the roster for the Mets.
Frank K says, blame Colts management for Luck's retirement.
Yeah, I don't know about that. He was a weird dude, Andrew Luck.
Well, remember, money was never an issue for him, right? The father was also, he's like
Oliver Luck.
Yeah. He's like an architect, and also he was in charge of the XFL or something like that for the short time period it was around.
He was a former athletic director at West Virginia, something like that. So,
yeah. So, I mean, again, money's never been an issue for him or that family. So maybe he's not a guy of many needs.
Yeah. I mean, he had injury issues. I mean, he tore that shoulder up pretty bad.
He had concussions, lacerations, shoulder injury, knee injury, I think, ankle. The guy was always injured. I mean, you talk about a guy who was one of those warriors. You talk about injury-prone level. You'd put him around how injury-prone Carson Wentz is.
That's why you need an offensive line around your quarterback.
Yep.
Most important thing. You need the quarterback first, offensive line second. Can't get your quarterback killed. Quarterback is the most important position in sports.
Yeah.
Nothing else compares.
Yep. And then Alexander said, I guess the Washington football team forgot there was a game today. My God, Dallas is all over the Washington football team.
Yeah, they usually play those games tight.
Well, it's apparently a blowout. 35. Holy crap. 35-7. Not
Close.
even through the first half.
Yeah. Well, Washington's not that good.
Yeah, and again, it just shows you how bad that division is. The Washington football team's bad, right? The Washington football team with Juan Rivera, they have a lot of work still to do. They don't have the quarterback solved. They've got a lot of things still left to do to make that a very, very competitive team.
Yeah, I don't think that. I'm not saying that Dallas is a bad team. I don't think they're as good as they're rated right now. That's what I'll say. Right now, they're second seed in the NFC. I don't think they're that good.
Frank K saying he thinks Rodgers is going to stay with Green Bay. I don't know. I just don't see that.
When you would negotiate the last year of your contract to make sure they can't franchise you, that means you're out the door.
Yep.
And he's saying, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to try to win a championship this year, and I'm going to going to go somewhere else and I'm going to try to pull a Brady. Good luck.
Tony Cheese saying, laughing my ass off. Aaron Rodgers will get more and more eclectic every year, every week.
Yeah, he's a strange dude too.
As Brett Favre said, he's one weird cat. How many people do you know that won't speak with their family?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not wrong with that. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is, he's definitely one weird guy. No doubt about it. Yep. Drew L says, hey, what's good, TJ and Grump? A long time no see. How's your fantasy team doing? I'm going to the championship of one of my leagues without Derrick Henry. Oh, he must have missed the beginning, Grumpy, when you went on your little tirade for about the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, COVID beat my team this year. COVID beat my team.
Oh, man. Gotcha. Absolutely.
Came in second in 2 leagues because of COVID.
Alexander said, to get more starting pitchers for the Mets. That's what's needed. And Junior Seau was a real bad case of CTE that the NFL neglected to do research about. I think it wasn't like CTE wasn't. That's when they were still saying CTE wasn't an issue for many, many years when Junior Seau committed suicide.
And, Junior Seau has been dead a long time, so I don't know how that time frame is. But for certain, the NFL was in denial about that, and they don't want to be held responsible for it. And honestly, they shouldn't be held responsible for that. I mean, they shouldn't have denied that helps contribute to it, because guess what? You have the option. Nobody says you have to play in the NFL.
Yep.
I mean, that's a choice you make. So, you have to know that there are risks. I mean, it's like with any job, right? I mean, you type in on a computer all day, you run the risk of getting carpal tunnel syndrome, which could stop you from work. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying?
It's a little different, but I know what you mean.
Every job has inherent risks that could cause some type of disability. I mean, anytime that you're running into bodies and getting hammered all the time, you have to know that that's going to have an effect on you in the long run. You don't need a scientific study to tell you that.
Yeah, it's like
fighters, right?
Fighters,
right? You know what they used to say? Fighters who would get into fights. Oh, he's punchy. No, man, he's got freaking brain damage from taking hundreds and hundreds of blows to the head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why you see a lot of people. You see the sport of boxing. I mean, there still are boxers, but you mentioned, hey, the boxers now are nowhere near as good as the boxers back then. Not as many people participate in boxing because the risks are so well known, I believe.
I don't think it has to do with the risks. I think it has to do with the money being what it is. Here's the thing. What made boxers really good? The more you fight, the better you get. Now, you fight 5 fights, you get yourself in a championship bout, you make $10, $15 million, and now you're set for life. Guys didn't make that kind of money back in the day, back in the 70s and the 80s. That's when the money started taking off. But before that's why you see Marvin Hagler fought, 68 or 69 professional fights. He didn't even get a championship shot until he had like 45 or 50 bouts under his belt. I mean, that's how long it took for you to be a championship fighter. It's different today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Tony Shee says, do you think that Zach Wilson faking like he was going to go out of bounds is a little unsportsmanlike? Grump, do you know the play they're talking about?
Here's the thing. It's like the Kenny Pickett thing where he did the fake going down. But here's the thing. The Dolphins did it to the Jets years ago. Dan Marino faking a spike and, throwing a touchdown pass at the end of the game to beat the Jets. Boy, tell me that's not a typical way for the Jets to lose. You know what? Unless there's a rule against it, and they are changing that in the NCAA to do the fake slide thing, it is what it is. You see guys have done that. Zach Wilson's not the only guy to do that ever. So you know what it means? When Zach Wilson gets lit up along the sideline one time, you're going to know why. That's all I'm going to say. And here's the play. Let's take a look.
And this is where it looks like he's going to go out of bounds. All righty.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's not even a fake. No, that's nothing.
I mean, you watch it here in a little bit in slow-mo, right? He's got the guy coming around. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like he's faking to go out of bounds. But I think who the hell is number 5? What a bad angle.
Yes, it's just a terrible angle.
Remember,
Wilson's a pretty good athlete.
Okay. Hold on a second. He's at the numbers, which is about like 7 yards. And you've got about 7 to 7 yards. They're both in a full-on sprint. It's kind of odd. He gets gassed at that point. It wasn't like he was anywhere freaking close.
Yeah, but number 8's probably a linebacker too.
Number 5, I believe it is still.
Whatever. He's probably a linebacker. Remember, this kid's an athlete.
Yeah, again, Zach, I heard people rumoring that Saleh might be on the hot seat to lose his job with the Jets already.
No way. Not after 1 year. Not
I
after
was about
1
to say, I thought the same exact thing. I'm like, guys, you might want to just relax a little bit. There's no way in hell he's going. Come on.
Every head coach is going to, unless you're Urban Meyer, every head coach is going to get 2 years.
I was about to say, right, there have only been 2 coaches, Bobby Petrino and Urban Meyer, that have been given less than 1 year, have been fired during their first season. So
And they had off the field stuff that doomed them.
Yep. Frank K said, Colts never got Luck on offensive line. That's why he got killed. For certain it is.
Right.
Yeah, they never protected Luck. That was the biggest issue. Drew L says, sounds like you need to purchase 16 rounds from the fantasy football counselor, Grumpy. Would a fantasy football counselor help you out, Grumpy?
My team was so freaking loaded.
It seems like the wound is fresh.
The wound is fresh because, I mean, I was counting that money, honestly.
How much money was it worth, Grumpy?
I don't know, $500-600. I mean,
what are we going to do with that money, Grumpy?
Spend it.
What are you going to spend it on?
Whatever the hell I wanted.
I didn't know if you had like a certain item. You're like, oh man, I was going to purchase
a new co-host.
A new co-host, Grumpy. You're going to have to go ahead and get quite a few of those then. If that maybe you get
I could probably get them for 100.
Oh my goodness. And then Alexander says, do you guys feel after watching what happened to Donald Parham of the Jets safety being stretchered off the field, do you feel like football players get played?
I think he's saying paid too much.
Paid too much.
Nope. Whatever the market allows, I should think they should make whatever they can. You're putting your body on the line. But you don't have to. So, they know the inherent risk. I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm not hoping anybody gets hurt, but, it's a tough physical sport.
It's like when a boxer steps in the ring, right? They know the risk that there could be the chance to develop like some sort of brain issue. He getting punched in the head.
Yeah, over and over and over again.
It's not like, it's not like that's no longer a mystery anymore like it maybe used to be. It's
MMA. Think of MMA. Tell me those guys aren't going to have CT when their careers are over. I mean, they're taking practically.
So usually end in a knockout in some capacity. When you get knocked out, you're getting concussed. You're getting knocked, you know what I mean?
And you see those guys, man, when they get beat for that first time, they're never the same, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only take so many of those blows, and then, it's tough sports. I mean, they're just really, really tough.
Drew L says, I think 16 rounds is like $27 or something like that, Grump. It's revolutionary. Hold on, Grumpy. Is this somebody that can go ahead and talk with you about your fantasy football woes?
Oh, I don't know. All I know is that I won.
This is Drew L. We can go ahead and get Grumpy a subscription. Merry Christmas, Grumpy.
All I'm saying is that I had won 11 of the last 12 games. I had a bunch of injuries at the beginning of the year. I molded my team. I was making great pickups. And I was a steamer juggernaut. And COVID, not even guys who are sick. They're not even sick. Sit them out. We know the grumpy old man's planning to make some money here. Bench these guys. The only thing you can stop them.
That's what the NFL said, right? And that's what the team said. Hold on. This guy's on grumpy old man's fantasy team. You're not allowed to play. Sit him out. Sit him out. Sit him out.
Right. That's what happened.
I forgot you have that much pull, Grumpy. I always forget that.
Yeah.
What a film said, the Cowboys are playing well, but I'm not so sure they're Super Bowl bound.
I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
I think it's Kansas City's to lose, honestly.
They've really picked it up. They've righted the ship. They struggled earlier on in the season, and they have been really, really good as of late. And
here's the thing. The AFC is much weaker than the NFC. The NFC, the top 5 teams are, I'm going to throw Arizona in there, even though I think they're kind of a paper tiger, but all the division champions are really good.
You look at that AFC, you look at the NFC West. Think about the NFC West, man. That is a tough division, grumpy old man.
3 teams can make the playoffs.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Pete Carroll's on the hot seat?
No.
I'm just thinking with his age.
He might want to step down. Right? He might want to step down, but when you say on the hot seat, it means he's going to get fired by the organization. I don't think that's the case. Now you could see Russell Wilson leave at the end of the year, and then maybe Pete says, you know what? I'm 72, 73, whatever he is, 71. I don't know how old he is exactly, but I know he's in the 70s. And he might just say, you know what, I'm not in it for a full rebuild, just not in it, because that's what they need is a full rebuild, right?
Yeah, I want to show you 2 more videos, Grump, because we have a fan favorite, or we've got a fan favorite fan fights segment upcoming. I want to show you, this is a year, I think, to the day, almost a year ago, where, do you remember there was a big fight and brawl that broke out at the end of one of these college football games not too long ago? This was at Mississippi State. This is when Mike Leach was in the stands taking pictures with fans who had traveled to the game, and there was a brawl that broke out, I believe, between Memphis and Mississippi State. And
is it because he was taking pictures?
No, not because he was taking pictures. Something happened on the field, and this is where they started throwing a whole bunch of punches. I'm not sure if you remember this, but they show pictures and video of Mike Leach taking pictures, and this is where the fight broke out. I think it was between, maybe it was Kentucky, maybe it was Memphis, and we only caught the tail end. That fight went on for a long. Hold on, can we talk about this guy's punching form? What in God's name is this as a punch?
He looked like David Cohn throwing the Laredo slider. I mean, what are you gonna?
I can't remember who this was. Maybe it was Kentucky. Maybe it was.
It looks like Kentucky
Memphis,
and
I don't remember.
Kentucky. I don't know.
It couldn't have been the same exact. It couldn't be the same. It had to be Memphis because it couldn't be the same exact conference because these are 2 teams I believe that were in a bowl game. So maybe it had to be Memphis and Mississippi State. I'll have to look.
Okay.
Man, look at that punch he's throwing right there, Crumpy.
Yeah. It's not moving. Is it supposed to move?
I wanted to stop that for you so you can opine on it a little bit as I pulled.
I said as soon as I mentioned the David Cohn Laredo slider, I made my comment on it.
It was Tulsa. Okay,
Tulsa. Okay, and who is Mike Leach's team?
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. Okay.
Again, like I'm not sure. I can't remember what started this all, but this is Mike Leach is just one of those iconic football coaches that you'll never forget. You never forget, Grumpy. But we do have a fan fights.
Yes,
Grumpy. Fan fights, an all-time fan favorite. Now this happens to be a massive brawl. This is the depiction. Massive fan brawl breaks out between the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, against the Packers game in Baltimore. And as you can guess, this is not one where you're going to see Baltimore fans fighting Baltimore fans or Packer fans fighting Packer fans, Grumpy Old Man. This is one where you're going to get to see, I assume they get into a fight because they root for opposite teams. As crazy as this is. Look at him. You've got, let's start off. We've got our friend over here with his little cheese head on. This is, I mean, the Packers beat the brakes off of the Baltimore Ravens that week, correct?
Yeah. See, you got. It's best just to kind of, no reason to talk trash when your team is up big, when there's a bunch of drunken people around. It's usually a mistake. It's particularly if you're not funny. If you're just like, I'm sorry.
That was a close game. It was only a 1-point game. That's right. I had forgotten. Okay,
that's the one where he went for 2 points as opposed to trying to tie it. Another freaking bungle. How many of those games can John Harbaugh lose in the season? That's 2. That's 2 games this year. He decided to go for it at the end as opposed to taking the tie and going overtime. He's 0-2 in those games. No wonder their team is maybe not going to make the playoffs. Good job, John Harbaugh. Dumb bastard.
Looks like they throw first punch here. Packers fan throws first punch.
Oh, man.
Mr. White.
That was a girl.
No, that's a guy. Mr. Whitecoat's a guy with long hair.
That's a guy?
Yes, there is.
Oh. Came over the top rope.
I was about to say that guy jumped in out of nowhere. We'll have to watch that one again.
Stop.
I'm happy they blurted out all the cuss words. Oh my God! He got some blood on him, Grum.
He's showing some color. He was down for a while. I wonder if he cut himself like the rest of us do. Show a little color, you know.
I don't think that's the case, Grumpy.
Bladed.
We'll have to watch this one again in slow motion.
Oh, he throws a little
spin at the end. Oh man,
you know what
he's already walking up the stairs. He knows he's getting excused out of the stadium. They say, "Don't ever come back here, buddy."
He could have spit on him and said, "Get COVID."
No, that's not what he said.
I said he could have said that.
I don't think that's what he did. There's nobody in the stands wearing their mask the way they're supposed to, I believe.
The cops. Well, you're outside. The cops are there quick. The cops are there.
Good. I'm glad the cops are there quick.
There's Lamar Jackson.
I just want to kill you. Lamar Jackson's like, hold on.
And that is a guy in a white jacket. He should be embarrassed wearing that.
Spoke right over it. Jesus Christ! Wait a second, Grump. I'm gonna kill you. Two Green Bay fans. I want you to see the
in my park.
I want you to see the aftermath, and then we'll go ahead and watch the fight again because it was crazy and wild. I mean, obviously this is a sellout crowd, but man, oh man, I cannot get over all the blood on that guy's face.
Well, that lady is the free speech police. He's covering his mouth. Don't say anything.
Well, he's trying to prevent her boyfriend, who's probably drunk, from getting escorted out.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I cannot. He's got some blood on him. That is a woman's jacket, is what it looks like.
Yeah, Ed Reed needs to just.
I don't remember Ed Reed wearing women's jackets.
No, but he was number 20. So I'm just looking at the haircut on this guy. I thought it was a woman. Oh my God! From right field, he got what he deserved. Don't you wear no white pants? Don't wear white past Labor Day.
What in God's name? Oh my God. It looks like the police officers were here. What the hell was the police officer? You talk about how quick the police officer was. Hold on. What the hell was this about?
Look at
He's
this.
explaining his case to the officer. Go! Jesus Christ. Let's go.
Where is he? Where's Mr. White Jacket?
Yeah, that guy's getting arrested, as he should be. I mean, that guy should be thrown. That guy should be thrown in the clink. Come on, you can't do stuff like that.
Oh, now he wants a fight? Get a haircut, hippie. Shave those sideburns, whatever it is. Look at him; he can't even grow a beard.
It's not a good hairdo.
Shave that shit off your face.
It's not a good hairdo. That being said, I gotta watch that again. Where the hell did that guy came out of nowhere? I just want to see if there's anything else that happens.
Came off the top rope.
I'm about to say, okay, now we got a few more police officers already here.
That guy, Mr. Whitecoat, has a bald. He's got baldness in his future.
Well, he already is bald. Okay. We'll watch that from the beginning. We'll slow this down and break it down a bit. This guy throws first punch, and I assume he's Mr. White shirt. He throws a jab right to the face. We go ahead and put that a little bit in slow motion too, Grump, for us. Boom. Let's put it in slow mo. Okay, think about this. I don't know if he thought through the first punch. He knows he's surrounded by Ravens fan. He throws one punch and kind of turtles up and then starts getting hammered.
Maybe he just had some liquid courage going on.
I was about to say, Mr. White shirt. I mean, he gets up. Oh my God. You want to talk about the one that bloodies him? Mr. White shirt, this punch right here.
No, I don't think that bloodied him. I think he hit a chair. That guy don't throw a punch hard enough to cut anybody. I'm sorry. Even if he had brass knuckles, I'm taking that guy.
This guy's tackling Mr. White shirt, trying to keep the peace. He's wearing
Mr. White shirt's a useless dog.
Come on. Oh my God. Hold on. That old guy just got punched in the face. Hold on.
See, that's he got cut. He got cut down.
Mr. Old guy gets hit in the face running quick right here.
He didn't get cut from the white jacket bitch throwing one little punch. It was the stuff after the fact.
Oh shit. What the hell did I do? I apologize, Grumpy. Hey, we're still here. So we gotta go back and look at this again here. Look at Lamar Jackson. Who's 8 for the Ravens?
It's Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson comes flying in with a people's elbow is what that looks like, Grumpy. Is that a people's elbow?
It looks like people's elbow.
Boom. I'm pretty sure he's got an elbow going down there. The people's elbow. Look at that. Watching a little bit of too much of WWE, Grumpy. That's what that looks like.
You know, are you allowed to say that somebody got Pearl Harbored anymore? Or is that not okay?
No, that's not okay. You're not
like it's a Jap attack. That's what they used to call it back in the day. Japanese, sneak attack.
Okay.
He got Pearl Harbored.
Okay. Well, not allowed to say stuff like that anymore, Grumpy. He did get hit with a sneak attack. But Jesus. I do like how quickly they got up and they got on him. But man, oh man. I cannot believe it looks like Mr. White shirt was on. God almighty. I've got
Mr. White jacket. His biggest crime was wearing white after Labor Day. He deserves a beating. That's all I'm going to say. I thought he was a woman. I thought he was a woman. And then looking at him, he is a woman just who needs a little bit of electrolysis to get rid of that little hair that he's got on the side of his face.
Man, oh man, that guy is bleeding big time. He's bleeding like a stuffed pig.
Stuck. It's a stuck pig, not a stuffed pig. Stuck.
He's bleeding like a stuck pig. You like that better, Grump?
Much better.
Okay. Man, oh man, I tell you. Ooh. You're starting to taste the blood too as it's running down your face. He is hammered drunk, I'm sure. And oh, God Almighty, I'm sorry. I got to watch again where he comes flying out of nowhere. Right, we see a little bit. Everything remains calm. This guy starts freaking out. Mr. Whiteshirt then starts going to try.
No,
to
his name is Mr. White Jacket.
Mr. White Jacket is like, oh no, I've been punched. We were punched. I
Oh,
mean,
no.
he needs to change that hairstyle up. I mean, Jesus,
on, dude.
Let's put a freeze frame on that one, brother.
Yeah,
You need to
he's
cut the
hideous.
hair, change it up. Maybe he's been one of those guys since COVID. He's been working home, so he just hasn't gotten a haircut yet.
No,
and you
he's
need
the
to
guy
change
who lives in his mom's basement and, says, "Oh, you suck, basement boy," or whatever the heck name is.
Is that what
He's
that
the
was used to
master
mean,
of the universe. You look at him.
basement boy?
I wear a white jacket. That's all he needs to say. You wear a white jacket,
Oh
bitch.
God. Oh God.
Look at him.
It's not even that. I think. So he
Nice
goes
receding
in his
hairline.
face. I know he starts.
I just love these guys. I love the guys who think they can grow beards when they can't.
Okay, so everybody right now, police officer, security guards are all talking. They're pointing. Okay, this is the guy that did it to you. What happened? Let's get a little more information. And he turns away for 1 second, and we see Mr. Green Bay. Oh, hold on a second.
Back in the fray. He's getting ready to get Pearl Harbored.
Stop! You can't say stuff like that, Grump.
You can say Pearl Harbored.
Look at this. He grabs him.
Baboom.
Do you like how he grabs his shirt or his head there to keep him steady so he can really connect with that right hand?
He's a hockey fighter, man. He grabs the jersey. Boom! Come on, jacket boy.
Christ,
See how tough you are without your jacket.
I'm just shocked that happened. He threw more than one punch.
Oh, down goes jacket. Goes jacket.
Immediately gets.
Like I said, jacket boy is a pussy. I'm sorry.
Oh, do you like how Ray Lewis throws a few uppercuts here?
Ray Lewis come out there, yeah, stomping, doing his stomp as he comes out. Yeah.
He does throw a kick or two in at him. Almighty.
Where's Jacket Boy?
Jacket Boy. Jacket Boy got punched so hard in the face, his jacket falls off in the next portion. Because what we're going to see here when they turn around to him, maybe that jacket was inhibiting his movement ability and his ability to react.
It was
the jacket.
He's
losing his jacket. The jacket comes off, baby. Fight me now.
You know what that kid should worry about? Where he's getting a razor blade to shave the head, whatever he's got left on his head, and that like I said, he's got to be a woman with just needs a little electrolysis because that's certainly not a man beard.
Stop. He does need to shave. Needs to change up the haircut. But man, come on, Mr. Packer. Seriously, what the hell was he thinking? Right? Maybe he could have got away with hey, you're not allowed back in the stadium anymore, right? We're going to go ahead and not allow you to come back in the stadium. You got into an altercation. Nobody really saw what happened. We don't have exact video evidence of who started everything.
Well, they have evidence. He hit Green Bay boy first. Jacket boy hit him first.
But
here it comes.
This punch right here earned him jail time. No doubt in my mind.
No, I don't think so.
It should earn him jail time, right? Everything was calmed down. Everything was separated. The police are there. And this guy goes ahead and punches him again. It's funny. It's nowhere near to what things were like for that Los Angeles Chargers, Los Angeles Rams preseason matchup. But this one right here, this is the closest one we get to it.
It's a good fight.
A good fight indeed, grumpy old man.
Yeah.
Good gracious. And dragging bystanders into the melee. Oh, man, I'll tell you. It is something else.
At least he didn't pull a woman in front of him. Oh, don't hit me. I'm Jacket Boy. Jacket Girl.
I don't like anytime somebody else is trying to keep the peace and some random maniac like Mr. Packers comes down there and smacks somebody in the face. After the fight has been broken up, he cold-cocks right in
Mr. Packers' defense. He was bloodied in the fray. When
so you think when he sees blood, he goes, Braveheart, fight! And he just goes right back to fighting? Is that what it is?
They got him down. They bladed him. He come up bleeding. Then they were talking shit. It's like the wrestlers. They were holding him back. He escaped, and the melee ensues, and he jumps on top, and he hits Jacket Boy, and down goes Jacket Boy. And then, here's what Jacket Boy should have done. He should have pulled a woman in front because that always, whenever you're the bad guy, as soon as you do that, that stops the good guy from hitting you. You pull a woman in front.
Oh, I forgot. We got to go back through it. I forgot he spit on him. Let's put the slow motion spit on here too.
Yeah, that was good. I like the spit.
I don't like the spit. I'll tell you one thing. Mr. Packers definitely needs. I wish somebody would have clocked Mr. Packers real hard in the face after that. Come on.
He did. He was bleeding. He was leaking.
Okay, you just said it was maybe he's leaking here. Oh, here's the thing. That wasn't like
Look at the smile on his
loogie.
face.
That wasn't like a small loogie either. Look at this thing.
No, that was a
That
good
had a
one.
lot of spit behind it too.
Yeah.
Oh,
He knows how to spit. He's probably been chewing
he does
tobacco.
have a
his
little
whole
bit of a
life.
smile on his face. He's like, "Yeah, glad I got that last spit in on him."
He went, woohoo, jacket boy.
I feel bad for Jacket Boy. I know you're making
Not
fun of
me.
him.
Not me.
What
You
do
go
you
to a
mean?
game
You
looking
feel-
like
you
that,
feel
you
good for
deserve
Mr.
to get beat
Packers?
up.
You feel good for Mr. Packers?
Yeah, I do.
Stop. I know you're joking around.
No,
You're
I
just
hate
good
the,
for
I
other
hate the
side.
Ravens.
Anybody who wears Ravens fan
I'm not a
gear.
fan of the Packers, but man, I hate the Ravens.
Oh man. What a film's saying. He backed out of the ugly form there with the punch. The first one there for the Tulsa guy. And the guy jumped from the top rope. Dude sucker punches Mr. White Jacket. And Grumpy, White Jacket guy needs to get his ass beaten.
Absolutely.
That's a joke. Tony Cheese saying, I'm pretty sure spitting on people nowadays is a felony. I think it is
well.
too. It's I'm telling you, that guy's going to spend some time in jail. You can't go ahead and spit on somebody. Then once everything's broken up, go in or make a running jump into somebody.
It wasn't spit, officer. I coughed.
I don't know.
It just came out.
That's really tough. That's going to be really tough. Tony Cheese saying the kid has 1980s almost retired hockey player hair.
Yeah, he's hideous. He's hideous. I don't know how you walk around the street looking like that wearing a white jacket.
Maybe it's the fashion, Grumpy.
It's not where.
I don't know, Grump. Maybe it's the fashion, man. Maybe it's the fashion. I'm trying to give him some sort of out. I don't know what to say, Grumpy. I don't know what to say. But also, I found that, guys. I had to send it to you, and it wasn't the first time this guy has spit on somebody. He's too good at it. I was about to say,
yeah, he's good at it. You could tell he's had spit.
A lot of spit behind it. He's been at bars plenty of times. It's spit at people. Probably got into a few drunken bar fights on the gravel parkway at outside of his local bar. I tell you, that guy is. You could tell he's mixed it up a few times. You see sometimes in these fan fights, people are throwing, with weak wrists like that. Mr. Packers has seen a time or two. And Mr. White Jacket, that was his first time leaving the house since for years. So
you want to know who Packer Boy reminded me of? Do you remember the movie Good Will Hunting? When they went in the beginning of the movie, they went to a little league baseball game, and he said, "Hey, don't you know that guy? Yeah, he's Nicky Dimenticarlo." He's like, "Yeah, I remember that kid. He stole my lunch money when I was in kindergarten." And then Matt Damon sees him later. "Hey, Nicky Dimenticarlo, you remember me?" And he goes out there and he jumps him and gives him a beating. That's what Packer Boy looked like after he took a few shots. That's what he kind of looked like to me. And he spit out.
Jeez.
Good spit. Good spit.
Drew L. He wants to show you, grumpy old man. He wants to show you what 16 rounds of a little help from the fantasy football doctor will show him. Oh, it's on a different page. He was showing his team has performed well. He had 160 points this week. Grumpy in fantasy. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, my guys underperformed. So it's not like I get to pick a new team every week either. Stuck with the same ham and eggers I had all year. Picking 12th out of a 12-team league. 12.
Tony Cheese saying here, laughing my ass off. Good night, boys. Missed the podcast. Glad to have you back. And once again, thank you for the content. Well, thanks, Tony Cheese, always for tuning in. Alexander also saying here, guy at the end of the video recording said, bro, I got this all on video. I was about to say, I'm happy we didn't have it like mid-fight. We have it from the very start.
Yeah, I'd like to see White Jacket. Maybe you want to lose that video. Shows you being a bitch. Not too cool.
Well, here's the thing. It's your defense, too. I'll tell you, you should bring legal action against Mr. Packers. Come on. He spits on you, then he goes and jumps down the stairs and punches you in the face. Come on.
It's like Friday night. Nothing to see here.
Well, for Mr. Packers, you could tell he's been in a lot of those before. He's maybe skirted the law. Maybe he already has a checkered past. Maybe he's already got a checkered past, grumpy old man.
Who knows?
How was that last little bit of purple drink, Grump?
It was good. Had to finish it. It's getting thirsty. Calling the fight.
Tony Cheese says, I'll leave you with a little wisdom and a bit of a hot take. In order to win in a sporting event, you have to have a better score than your opponent.
True.
And it's a very hot take. It's a controversial one too, Tony Cheese.
Yeah.
That's for certain. That's for certain. Jewel said, I'm stuck with the same guys too, Grump. You can't change it either.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
COVID killed my team. You can't have your top 4 picks out and expect to win a championship round. Can't have it. Very difficult.
Well,
I hung tough, but still not enough.
We are here at the end of today's podcast and episode. That being said, we do have an item I'll save for next time, Grump, just because it's getting late into the podcast. I have an item to save for next time that Alexander sent us. We'll make sure to show. But Grump, what else do you have to say before we wrap up today's podcast? Because we're back on air live again this Wednesday, actually, at 9:15 Eastern Standard Time for the Oklahoma-Oregon game. So we'll be on right after we finish the Islanders Never Say Die podcast for the Oklahoma-Oregon game, assuming COVID doesn't cancel that game as well.
Okay. I just want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens, even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man, and Merry Christmas, belated Merry Christmas to everyone on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Grumpy Old Man, for being on the podcast as always. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Glad to be back. Glad to talk a little bit of sports and shoot the shit. And Warzone Senior Citizen says, great show. As always, guys. Grumpy Old Man, you're the GOAT.
Thank you,
That's Warzone. Saying great job. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be live this Wednesday during the Oregon-Oklahoma game. Don't miss out. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, follow on Twitter. Thank you again, Grumpy Old Man. Thank you, everybody, for listening today.
My pleasure.